Hello, everybody. It's Graham Cove with my music. In a minute, I'm going to be speaking to Peter. But first, we're going to have this little video from Analog Trash. Please pay attention because they are the sponsors of the show. They would like you to go and have a look at their website, analogtrash.com. You may or may not find something of interest there, but watch this and see what you think. Peter, thanks for joining me. Peter from Suburban Spell. Tell me, sir, was there anything in that video that was of interest to you?
Actually, yeah, I was having a bit of a look at it. I'm thinking it piqued my interest anyway. I said, oh, what's this about? So I'm interested to kind of follow it up and actually see what it is. At first value, I didn't first glance. It wasn't quite sure what it was, but it certainly piqued my interest.
Yeah. Well, Analog Trash as a label have quite a lot of electronica music, which of course you're into yourself.
Yes, indeed, I am. Big time.
What got you into fiddling with,
knobs?
You said it, I didn't.
Yeah. Well, I'm really going to sort of show my age here, but when I was in kind of high school, in kind of the very late 70s or whatever, I think we started. There was a friend of mine at school who was playing a few keyboards, and then I first bought like a little Moog synthesizer to kind of start with. And
well, that's a great place to start.
I know. Yeah. It wasn't the really flash one that I think it was the mini Moog was doing. It was like a hybrid version of that.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was a really good place to start. And he had a Roland SH and I had a Roland Strings as well, I think, at the time. And we just started to play a few gigs in the lounge room to our sort of high school mates. And it just kind of grew from there, really. But we used to go around to the record shops as well when we were kids, sort of, 15, 16 years old, and used to dig out the Klaus Schultz kind of CDs and sort of the Kraftwerk stuff and the Jarre stuff and all of those kind of early kind of electronic pioneers. So it really kind of started out at a very young age. But before that, I was I learned kind of the Lowry organ, and played the really cheesy songs around the family home and all that sort of thing. So I started playing keyboards at a younger age, but then I got more and more into the electronic stuff as I got a bit older.
Oh, that's brilliant. My first keyboard was rubbish. My first keyboard was a Bontempi organ. Do you remember those?
Oof.
I mean, it probably would make a great sound on an album as a kind of retro naff thing.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, dreadful. It had a little fan in it, which kind of blew the noise out and gave the notes that were coming out that kind of awful vibrato.
Yeah,
you could change the sort of slightly the modulation of the note and the vibrato on the note by literally speeding or slowing down the fan.
Yeah.
Oh, that's rubbish.
Yeah. Funnily enough, I was at a party on Saturday night to support Australia in the Eurovision song contest. So this is at a friend's place, and one of the guests at the party bought my very first keyboard from when I sold it like 30 odd 40 years ago, and I was in a band called Schizo Scherzo, and I had Schizo Scherzo written on the side of the case, and it was always a mystery to him who this kind of Schizo Scherzo was. And I actually met that same guy just randomly like 40 years later at this party, which was quite odd. And that was the Roland Juno 106. If you know
Right.
that keyboard. So that was rather odd that it come around kind of full circle. So he bought it for something like, I don't know, $250 way back then. It's worth about $3,500 now. So he's done all right out of it.
The evolution of electronics has been so quick, hasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, with that, the kind of evolution of the music around it. But in a way, where you are now with virtual instruments and being able to get the sound on a PC and apply it to a control keyboard and everything else, do you think it's lost its romanticism in a way where, you know, once upon a time it was literally sort of plugging wires in and you know, having to have all of this kit? I mean, it's great for going on stage, isn't it? Because literally people like Rick Wakeman and all of those people used to literally have to have banks and banks of keyboards in order to get the different sounds. But nowadays,
look, I'm not sure if I'm the best person to ask, but I absolutely love the virtual instruments and I love the virtual space because it allows me to do so much more than I could ever do with when I had the analog keyboards. Does anything get lost in that? Look, it's kind of subjective at best. I think the quality and the breadth of electronic music that's coming out now is amazing, and the digital age has really allowed that, I suppose. I think I've got a few friends who have got the old analog keyboards, and there's kind of a museum of electronic synthesizers here in Melbourne where it's free to go in, and they've got the full range of electronic keyboards from absolutely everything. And so in some ways I can go there and kind of satisfy those old urges that I had, and that's great. But I do love coming back to my digital studio and creating it, because I can get some fantastic sounds out of it, and it's just so convenient having all of that at your fingertips, really.
Yeah, I remember when it started getting more affordable in a way, and also, I suppose, trying to. I think we reached a period where we were trying to replicate very inexpensively sort of sounds of typical instruments. So there was that whole period where things like the first Yamaha piano emulator came out, and then you had the famous DX7, which
I used to have the DX7, and that was one of the that was certainly groundbreaking in its time, because that was the first kind of, I think I'm right in saying it was one of the first digital kind of synthesizers with the FM modulation, and it was an absolute bastard to program, but it used to have some really good bass sounds that really defined a lot of the sounds that were coming out in that sort of period, like the Howard Jones, bass line was that bass DX7, and that really had a very strong characteristic sound. And it's actually coming back again now. You can hear it every now and then where people are reusing that kind of that sound in the bass.
You mentioned some people that kind of started you off on the electronica listening journey a little while ago there, but how did your listening ear evolve over the years? What sort of things did you listen to as you got older and started making music?
It was kind of varied, I suppose. I think I was at least Melbourne back in the time in the day had a very strong music scene, I think, and so bands like In Excess, I suppose, were like starting. I used to go and see them, locally down at the local pub. There was a couple of bands from Perth called the Dewgites, who you probably haven't heard of. There was some bands called the Reels. There was bands like Hunters and Collectors back in the early day. And even I went and saw Boys Next Door, who became the Birthday Party.
Right.
And so around that time there was a huge amount of influences, I suppose, and some of it was sort of more sort of mainstream. Some was a bit more kind of, left of center. So it was kind of a hybrid of all of that, I suppose. Do you recall the band Real Life, who had that single "Send Me an Angel," which was obviously a big hit around the world? Well, they're a Melbourne band as well, and they're actually playing at a festival down here in Melbourne, which is a small country town about an hour out of Melbourne, and I'm actually supporting them as well, which would be great.
Wow, fantastic.
So yeah, and I don't think Real Life have played for a very, very long time. So the promoter was very excited about having them on board. So it'll be great to see those guys, because I used to, as I said, I used to play with those bands back in the 80s in some of the bands I was in. But look, I think some of the other kind of influences for me were, I used to really like the Cars, that very tight electronic but guitar-y kind of combination, I suppose. I used to really like
very highly polished, very clean guitar sound.
Yeah, but also really tight, like
really tight,
super tight and compressed. I thought that was really cool. And I used to like early Ultravox, I suppose, with John Fox, but I also really liked the other stuff as well. Then, like I don't know, Vienna, certainly one of my favourites, and Sleepwalk is one of my favourite songs off that album. And I don't know, I suppose, and that just kind of started. I kind of liked all sorts of things really from there. I was never a particular, purist that only kind of locked into one style, and that was the only thing I sort of, listened to. I was a bit of a bird really, and picked up all sorts of things really.
How do you go about your writing process? Are you lyrics first, or
no? Very much
last.
Very much lyrics last. Yeah. So I think I start writing music. Well, yes, it starts with the music, and it usually starts with a groove and a feel and a chord progression. But for me, it's a real distillation process. So I'll start with something and a concept, and I'll work it up. I'll take it to a few more steps, and then usually filter out all the crap, and then build it up again, and then build it up again. And it might take me really 3 or 4 weeks of that distillation process before I've actually got something solid enough that I think is worthy. And then from that, I'll develop more structure around that, and then I'll think about what I need to say lyrically. And
it's really interesting because I think that's one of the main distinctions, I would say, between people who are more sort of guitar based in their music and people that are electronica based in terms of the way that they formulate their music. Is I tend to find that a lot of the musicians I talk to who are sort of singer-songwriters who would write on the guitar will say, I have the lyrics first. And and then I'm kind of finding the piece of music to go around that set of lyrics and work with that set of lyrics. Whereas you find that electronic people that write electronic music, not always, but quite often, will typically be like, I want that. They virtually create an instrumental piece first, and then it's like, I need to find something that will fit into that lyrically. Yeah.
I think, and look, there's obviously no right way or wrong way about that, but I think me and how I write is that, obviously the song is sort of complete, and so I kind of, and this is going to sound really terrible, but kind of stuff my lyrics and melody into what's already there, but it's not as dramatic as that. I work the lyrics and the melody around the music to get the best out of each world. But I understand, like, if you're a guitarist, it just starts with the melody, I presume, and basically those kind of guitar chords, if you like. But it is kind of an interesting process, and they are very distinctly, I don't know, different from each other. Sure.
Yeah. Well, what about venturing off into other areas like film music, etc.? You looked at that?
Not purposely. I think.
Is it something you'd like to do?
Look, if somebody asked me to write something for a movie, of course, I'd be all over it like a shot. And I think my broad musical kind of exposure over the years would probably actually lend itself to that. There was a while in between my early electronic stuff, and I went through and I played a bit of guitar, and I played a bit of jazz piano, I played a bit of double bass in a bluegrass band, and a few other bits and pieces. So I've had kind of a very broad exposure of sort of music, but going back to Suburban Spell, I suppose, for the last kind of 3 or 4 years has been a revelation for me, and it's been great because it's actually taken back to my musical roots, And so I think having that other musical influences throughout the journey has kind of helped me think about things in music in the broader sense. So yeah, if there's an opportunity to do any soundtrack stuff or something, I'd certainly be all over it. I think it'd be great fun.
Looking at the artwork that you're producing for the pieces that you're putting out, like I love the black and white, which is quite in vogue at the moment, I'd say. But I mean, are there particular sort of styles of that certain bands have produced in terms of a look and a feel that you've looked at and gone, I really like that because of the kind of simplicity of it all?
No, it wasn't really influenced by other bands. I've always loved the monochromatic kind of style, just as a visual style, and a part of the kind of look that I was always wanted to kind of grow with was the brutalist architecture look, right? So that also lent itself to that monochromatic style. So every time that I think about an image or thinking about what it needs to look like, firstly, it's got to be very black, very white, high contrast. It needs to have a lot of angles, and it needs to be very sharp in sort of its construct, I suppose. At least that's the intent. I don't know how successful it is most times, but I think. But the first couple of videos, I suppose, really kind of expressed that, and I think the most recent video that for Bright Gold Cross also expresses that. So I've got another single coming out, I think in next week. I think it is, and it's called Natural Science. And there's a video that I haven't seen the final version of it yet, but we shot it about 2.5, 3 weeks ago, and I'm really excited about it. I think it's going to look fantastic. We've done some work with a studio just across the road from where I live called Dingo Cross Films, and the production people in there are fantastic. So they're really creative, and they're also really excited in the kind of work they've been doing with me. So I'm very interested to see what the outcome of the most recent video is. I think it'll be great.
Are you surprised by what you find yourself writing about when you get to the lyrics?
No, because Suburban Spell, I suppose, and what it was all about in its primary form was I'm a boy from the suburbs, right? So, and I was always really interested about the fragile life of that suburban life, and it can be a bit of a facade, really. And if you peel back a few of those layers, it's not, there's a lot of potentially sinister elements that sit underneath that kind of shiny facade. And so using that as a kind of foundation and my childhood as a foundation forms the basis of all of the lyrics. So it's just a huge pot of things to tap into. So I kind of always write around those similar themes. And I think as a narrative for the Suburban Spell and the constant themes I have through all of my songs actually really helps create a strong picture of the art of what I'm trying to say. But it's a constantly moving kind of thing. So it's one of those things where you're never quite happy with what you've done. You just want to improve it, and you just want to make it, better and better. So I'm really excited about once this EP is released next month, and the promotion side of that kind of finishes up, and it allows me to go back into writing my next pieces of work. I'm really excited and looking forward to that, because I think I want to take it in a slightly different direction, maybe a little bit more personal and a little bit more avant-garde and a bit more left of center a little bit, I think, probably. I don't know, I'm just kind of throwing around a few ideas at the moment about what it needs to look like. So
that's great. I mean, the suburbs is a topic that's come up in music time and time again.
Mm-hmm.
Are you listening to other reference points for suburb music and thinking, what have they said, or what have I not said, or what's not anybody
not really
said? No,
it's very, very personal. It's very observational. Like, sometimes I pick up threads of conversations, or I might read a bit of a passage in a book, and that will resonate with me, not in how it might have been presented at the time, but it might just allow me to refer to a memory which I've had from some time ago, and from that story will create, or a vision will sort of create, and I'll tend to write about that. So
maybe there's someone out there that could do a study on it, though. Maybe someone could go, well, look, let's have a look at Peter's look at the suburbs from Australia, and then we can have a look at like Saint Etienne's look at the suburbs in the UK, for example, and then let's get this kind of global feel of suburban life and what.
That'd be a really interesting study. Maybe someone, some academic somewhere has done a thesis on this. Who knows? Maybe.
Yeah, if you have, let us know, because
that'd be
sounds
great.
like a book. Anyway, it sounds like a book I'd read.
Yeah, for sure. I'm sure there's got to be common themes there, but it'd be really interesting to understand what the cultural differences might have been, and how that sort of manifested itself in the various places around the world. It'd be interesting.
Yeah, I expect there's some themes that are common to suburbia everywhere, but I expect that there's cultural difference that comes in, and then it'd be interesting to hear how that sound wise that influence is. Do you feel you capture the sound of the suburbs particularly well? Or do you capture the emotion of being in the suburbs?
Yeah, I think that's probably more where I try to go to. I don't.
You're not doing field music, are you?
No, but that's an interesting thought. Maybe I should have a think about sort of at least recreating some of those kinds of sounds, those oral kind of places that there's a few instances in my songs where there might be a few subtle effects that have picked up on a few of those kind of themes. I think might be a conversation that we need to talk about some other time, because it goes into some kind of areas.
That's something that certainly you hear with like the Saint Etienne records that are around that they're doing things like maybe like capturing a little snippet from the radio that or a little sort of advert from the area, or a little bit of talking in a playground or something like that, and bringing it into the landscape,
I suppose, in a way.
Yeah, it does in a way. I mean, I guess all music's a time capsule in a way, isn't it?
Yeah.
But actually, going back to your black and your white, and the fact that you are literally just capturing the emotion side of things, it perhaps though also makes your music a little bit more timeless in a way than perhaps if you did do that way. So it swings and roundabouts, isn't
it? Yeah. I'm not sure what the term timeless kind of music means. I know, there's a few albums or whatever that really stand the test of time, and there's some that kind of some that actually don't make it. So I suppose that means timeless. But I think, I mean, the stuff which I'm writing, I think is, in my view, it's firmly entrenched in the 80s. I mean, it's basically it's what I grew up with and what I experienced, and to me, it's as fresh as what I was doing in the 80s, because it's something I'm sort of very passionate about, and I absolutely love it. I think it's having a bit of a resurgence sort of out there in the general scene at the moment. But
well, all of those 80 sounds definitely are, aren't they? And I mean, it's due to some of the mainstream large artists actually cottoning onto those sounds. I mean, you listen to the last Taylor Swift album, it's full of 80s sounds in it,
For those that were listening earlier, that was the reference I made to that first band I was in, Schizo Scherzo. So we produced a 7-inch single way back then, and my wife picked it up and digitized it, and it's up on YouTube now. So if you search for Schizo Scherzo on YouTube, you'll find the song called Back to Back, and it's just a classic 80s song. So for those who want to search for it, it's actually a pretty good listen. I was actually thinking of covering it for Suburban Spell, but probably not quite the right fit. But
there's a good question for you then. If a modern artist was to pick it up and cover it, who would it be? Who would you like to do that?
Gee, I think I don't know. I think it'd be fun for like V&V Nation to pick it up and run with it. That'd be kind of interesting. It'd be kind of interesting to sort of hear like bands like, I don't know, Black Angel, or someone that's sort of really darker kind of, gothier bands like, I don't know, Bellwether Syndicate or something like that, to pick it up and run with it, because it's got a really kind of a lot of energy around it. I think giving it a harder edge or whatever would be kind of interesting, I think.
Nice. Maybe even Trent could get hold of it, We could have a 9-inch Nails version.
Yeah, well, who knows? Possibly.
Anything's possible in the world of music.
Indeed.
Well, listen, thank you for coming along, giving us a brief introduction to your music today. It's been an absolute pleasure talking. For people that haven't found your music yet, can you just let them know where's the best place to go and hear it?
Well, it should be on all your favorite streaming platforms, of course, and then it's on Bandcamp as well. It's we've got a Facebook page. I think it's on. I was going to say it's on SoundCloud, but I think there's only the one song, Bright Gold Cross, is available for listening. I think the others will be released progressively over the next couple of weeks. But it's sort of out there in the general streaming world, so it shouldn't be too hard if you find it.
We do like people to go to places though where they can actually leave you a little bit of money, because it just helps.
Yeah, it does help. Well, obviously the best place for that is Bandcamp as well, and we're actually selling hard copy CDs as well, and I think we're actually signing a few. So I know CDs are kind of out of favour now, but I think I've been speaking to a few record dealers, and there's actually a bit of a resurgence now in CDs, because the price of vinyl is getting out of control and the rest of it. And
well, last year, I don't know, I haven't looked at globally, but last year in the UK, CD sales were back up a little bit again.
Yeah,
to be honest, tape sales are up, vinyl sales are up, CD sales are up. We're just waiting for streaming to go down. No, not really, but it's
yeah. Well, I tell you what, I'm not making anything out of streaming, but that's sort of by the by, really.
I don't think it will ever go, but I do think people have come back round a little bit more to actually wanting to physically own their music again. And I think there's several reasons for that. I think one is that I think in the pandemic, I think people became much more in touch with the human side of everything, and I think we kind of suddenly realized that it's kind of important to support each other and appreciate things that are physical, because we kind of got lost in this kind of digital transformational world.
And the other thing is, if you're trying to find unique things, it's very difficult to find it on streaming. But if you can see it in your local record shop and you get the opportunity to buy it, I mean, you've really got to take advantage of that as well. I mean, not only does it help build your collection, but you can't get it anywhere else. Sometimes you just have to buy the physical media, which is great. I like it.
Well, I was going to say, and the other two reasons are people are getting fed up, I think, of actually shouting at the black box in the corner and it not actually getting the right song.
That is true.
Right. And at least when you've actually got the vinyl or the CD or whatever it is, you know that that's what's going to play, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, how many times, is there a song with like someone's written a song that's got the same title as 50 other songs and you're shouting at that box and it keeps playing the wrong one, and in the end you go go to the cupboard and get the CD out,
or if you've tried to search for the
doesn't like it, doesn't understand,
get it.
The what the what. Oh dear. You end up having, this is the thing, because people have, I think as well, when people physically had CDs and records and whatever, we actually knew the names of songs, right? Because you kind of physically had it there, and you kind of had to, you saved up, and you knew the names of songs, and now people don't. So, and I've seen it myself, where you go around someone's house and people are trying to sing to the device, right?
Yeah.
And go, it's the one that goes da 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 da, and it goes, is it this? No, it's not. So,
Yeah, I think you're right, and also that goes the same for album art as well. I mean, the whole streaming platform doesn't really lend itself to the album art, both on CDs and vinyl as well.
So there, the world's coming back round to physical stuff. I think it's all a great thing.
Yeah, no, I'm fully supportive of it. It's great.
So if you'd like to support Peter, head over to Bandcamp. Your Bandcamp is what? Suburban Spell.
Yep.
Nice and simple, lovely. Check that out. If you like it, do come back round and let us know. I mean, it's really lovely. I mean, obviously, if you've bought it, Peter will know because he'll get your email address and all of that. And the other advantage of that is he can then keep in touch, which is a wonderful thing.
Yep.
But if you like it, do pop back round. Let us know. If you're watching this on YouTube and you've listened to Peter's music and you enjoy it, again, comment and let Peter know, because that's a lovely thing. And that's what makes the world go round at the end of the day. The box in the corner is not very good at understanding accents. No, it isn't, Andrew. The thing is, it's programmed to one language. We've got on one of our boxes, we've got a family thing, a family account, and it makes it even worse. The more people that are on the same account, the worse it gets. So I've just given up, really.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fine. My wife's fine with it because she only ever listens to the same 5 songs. But for me, it's a complete waste of time. So it's CDs and vinyl and everything else for me, I'm afraid.
Yep, I hear you.
Peter, thanks for joining us today, everybody. Peter from Suburban Spell. If you've enjoyed this, please do subscribe. Please do share it around your friends, because Peter needs your support, as do all of the musicians that come on here, because it's a hard time for musicians. As he said, making music costs money. You don't get a lot of money. Not everybody's Ed Sheeran, and we'd love you to support musicians out there. So thanks for listening, everybody, and I'll see you again next time. Bye for now.